Ooh, we are live. Okay, we're here. We will be waiting for people to hop on. But I am aware that this replay will be available. Correct, Ilana?
Can she hear us?
Yes. Okay, thank you.
Wait, are we really doing making pots?
I can't talk while I'm okay, no problem. Okay.
Gotcha.
Will do. Okay. Yes. Well, we don't have handouts per se, but besides the slides, I do have a link to a resource for folks to access. I see people are joining. Hi, everyone. We're going to give a few more minutes for people to join, and then we will get started. Thank you so much for joining us for our session today. I guess while we're waiting, if those of you who are here with us right now, if you would like to put in the chat where you're joining from, and if you'd like to introduce yourself too, that's fine, but we would love to hear where you're joining from.
Is it on?
We are working on getting our presentation up for you all right now. Okay, we will give maybe one more minute and then we will get started.
Okay. Is it all right? Is it more down there?
Okay, should we just get started? Okay, we will get started, and if anyone joins, they will be able to access this recording. But first and foremost, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining our session. My name is Chriselle.
And I'm Brianna.
And today we're going to be talking about making politics hot. Just as a brief overview before we get into things, today we're going to be going over some learnings from working on the Kamala Harris campaign last year and running a statewide influencer program here in the state of Nevada. We are both based in Las Vegas, and sharing how you all can apply some of what we've learned and some of the challenges we've had as you work on creating your own influencer programs or engaging content creators that don't focus on politics necessarily with your organizations. So moving right along, what you will learn today, you will learn how Nevada was uniquely positioned to engage with non-political creators during the 2024 election. You will also learn about why non-political creators need to be included in advocacy campaigns. We will also be talking about the influencer climate outside of the political realm because it is very different, and how you can meet creators where you're at to build trust. and also how to infuse progressive political values into seemingly apolitical content to shift attitudes toward progressive values. So, with that being said, I will go first and introduce myself. Hi, my name is Chriselle. I'm a digital strategist, and also I am a history and political content creator, primarily on TikTok. But a little bit more about me is that I am a former lifestyle creator. I have been in the influencer and content creator world in some capacity since 2013, both as a creator myself, but also on the brand side, working with fashion brands to do outreach to content creators and also hosting creator events. Some previous collaborations that I have done over the last 12 years include Office Depot, Macy's, Proactive, Sydney Fashion Week, Lush Cosmetics, and ClassPass. And most recently, I served as the Nevada Deputy Digital Director on last year's Biden, then Harris presidential campaign. And the images that you see below are photos from my lifestyle content creator days. I have seen this industry shift from focusing on bloggers to focusing on Instagram and TikTok influencers. And also, I have been in this world before the word influencer popped up the way that it does today.
All right, so I'll tell you guys a little bit about me. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Brianna. So just to give you a little brief background about myself, I've always been into fashion and the lifestyle part of social media. I started actually doing fashion outfit inspirations about 2014, where I was just doing outfits of the days and just trying to establish myself with my own personal brand in a fashion space. And then in July 2019, which this month will make 6 years, I created a fashion brand that specializes in women's apparel and accessory called Privé Label. And so again, I was in another fashion space. Some of the partnerships that I collaborated with or also worked with was STK, which is a really popular and trendy steakhouse that's located here in Las Vegas. Also, I did a partnership with a retail brand called Good American. If anyone knows what Good American or who runs Good American is Khloe Kardashian. And these were both kind of just some of my examples of how I enhance my brand as for Brianna, and then partnerships. Some of the pictures that you see below, Good American was again one of the partnerships that I did and content that I did for the company. In the middle is actually one of my summer campaigns for Privé Label. And then at the end, this was another collaboration that I did with Kona Grill. And we collaborated with one of their tequila brands that they had during the summer solstice.
Okay, so because of what we're talking about today, we're going to be talking about collaborating with creators who don't focus on political content and how you can engage them for advocacy campaigns. We do want to set the stage and make sure that we are all on the same page. And by the way, also, if you do have any questions, please feel free to put them into the chat, save them until the end, because we will be addressing them during our Q&A session at the end. But first, as we set the stage, we do want to have some definitions to make sure that we're all thinking about everything in the same way so that we're all on the same page. I'm sorry, I'm feeling very redundant. But the first term that we're going to talk about, which is going to be probably one of the most used terms throughout this presentation, is the term non-political. In this context, when we are referring to content creators as non-political or even content as non-political, it's just talking about people or content that is not referring to politics rarely, if ever. And we do not want to equate this with people who view themselves as apolitical. All of the content creators that we work with, none of them view themselves as apolitical, but we are referring to their content and their niches as non-political.
Another term that you're going to hear in the presentation is lifestyle creator. And this content, it's a catch-all term for anyone who doesn't post about politics. In the influencer world, it refers to a type of niche.
And then the last term that we want to define for you all is called PR boxes. We wanted to include this term because it is one of the ways that you can engage with creators around the country without having to necessarily have an in-person engagement. And it is also one of the ways that brands engage with creators. As it says here, a PR box is a package that brands send to creators for free that is curated to the campaign that they are promoting. And because it is called a PR box and it is done for free and the creators are not paid for it, creators have no obligation to post about them. So that's just something to keep in mind. Another thing that we want to address as we continue to set the stage is talking about subtle political content, and also talking about it on the right, because unfortunately, the right has done a fairly good job at infusing their values into content that doesn't seem explicitly political. And these are two examples of two niches in the influencer world that are known for either having most of their creators be right-wing or for just promoting conservative values. The first one that you see here is called Trad Wives. It has been popular primarily on TikTok. And when you look at the trend at a distance, it looks like it's just these women who are dressed up and looking pretty while they cook for their kids and be stay-at-home moms. But in reality, when you dig a little bit deeper and look at what these lifestyles and what this content is trying to promote, is really trying to promote conservative, traditional family values. The other niche is gym bros. Gym bros is a niche, as the name says, that focuses on primarily men who work out a lot. This is another niche that when you look at it at first glance, you just think, oh, it's a bunch of people just working out. But a lot of these people, while working out, they also talk about and give commentary on things in their lives or why they're working out. And again, like Trad Wives, when you actually think or look below the surface of these videos, you will realize that a lot of these creators, who tend to be overwhelmingly men, are promoting conservative values. And the reason why we share this is because we want to see more progressive values shared just as subtly as these niches so that we can continue to move the needle. With that being said, I also want to paint a picture for you of the state of Nevada and where we are at, because while working on the Harris presidential campaign last year, we faced some unique challenges as a state. One of them being that as the deputy digital director, I had a very difficult time trying to find political or educational creators. And there's a reason for that. And a lot of it can be attributed to these three factors. Nevada is known for having fairly low public school education rankings. We used to be ranked 49th. We are no longer 49th, but we are still in the 40s as far as public education rankings go. Nevada also has a very tourist-centric economy, meaning that the content creators here, tend to cater to tourists and want to talk about fun things like what to do when you come to Vegas or when you go to Reno or nature. People don't really want to talk about politics. And then the last factor is the transient nature of residents. I think the statistic is something along the lines of like 80% of people in Nevada are not from Nevada originally. And that includes both myself and Brianna. And even though you have a ton of people moving into Nevada, you also have a ton of people moving out, meaning that people don't fully put down roots or get invested in politics here. However, the last thing to set the stage of all of this work that we did last year, despite those setbacks that we had during the campaign last year, we reached 49.9 million people from June to November 5th, 2024. So in just 5 months, we reached nearly 50 million people with the content created by content creators like Brianna. And then the content value, the generated content value of all of these posts from these creators totaled to over $3 million. And the total following from all of the engaged creators is over 27 million. And we engaged over 100 creators. So now that we have set the stage for you all and you can see what we were working with here in Nevada last year, let's talk first about meeting creators where they're at, because that is one of the most important things that you can do when you want to engage with non-political creators for your campaigns. And of course, it starts with outreach. When you're doing outreach, the first thing that I would recommend when you're reaching out to creators is to customize the outreach emails. Content creators like myself, I'm sure Brianna can say the same thing. We get tons of spam emails from brands who want to collaborate and usually don't even pay attention to the content or even who you are. I have gotten emails from brands saying they want to collaborate, but refer to me as a guy because my last name is most commonly a first name. There are some brands that just copy and paste. And because a lot of creators get that, they automatically ignore them. Would you say that's right?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's why when you reach out to content creators that you would like to collaborate with, customize them. Tell them, mention a piece of content of theirs that you like, preferably not the most recent post. If you guys have something in common, point that out. Really show and take care in your emails because you are going to be more likely to get a response.
And can I just add, as a content creator that gets those emails, when you actually do the research and actually pick out things like maybe, I really like that one post that you did with the outfit of the day and getting ready for this particular event. It kind of shows that you are paying more attention and you're not just saying, oh, she's a content creator, she has a certain amount of followers, she checks off this checklist for someone who can do content. You actually went above and beyond and said, this is what the value that I see in your content and what you give to your audience. I think that when you're propositioning a content creator, you can use that and say, hey, I'm doing such and such, I'm a part of this organization or this campaign. And then you can let them know what their skills, that creator skill is, in order how that would work and how it would be a mutual beneficial thing.
Yeah. Thank you so much for adding that, Brianna. And then another thing, this is my personal process and preference, especially because over the past decade plus in this world, I have heard a lot of creators say that they refuse to respond to brands that DM them. I know that with TikTok and how casual TikTok is compared to Instagram, I know that culture has changed a little bit, but I would still recommend, especially because you're from an organization and there's a lot of worry of spam accounts, bot accounts, reaching out to people and these creators might not be able to tell or have the time to decipher if you're a real account or not. Don't DM them unless you cannot find an email address. Always, always, always email them first. And then the second part when it comes to meeting creators where they're at is quality over quantity. You're more likely to receive a higher response rate if you customize your outreach in the first point, rather than sending out mass generic emails. An example that I can give speaking to this is that I worked, like I said, I worked here in Nevada last year, and as you probably know, the Democratic Party had campaigns in all of the battleground states, and there were 10 battleground states last year. The first event that I was part of after joining the campaign, I only reached out to 10 content creators. And as I said here, I customized each of my emails to them. And out of those 10 creators, I got 9 responses. That is a 90% response rate. Now, not all of those creators were able to attend the event that I was inviting them to, but I was now able to start building rapport with them because I got all of them to respond. I had other colleagues in other battleground states that sent emails to 100 creators and maybe got 12 responses. So emphasize quality over quantity when you're doing outreach because it will make a difference. Another part of meeting creators where they're at is both events, both virtual or in person, and engagement. Creator culture is very important to know and understand when you're trying to reach out to non-political creators because it is very different from when you're reaching out to political and educational creators. Because for most of the creators that you will be reaching out to, it might be their first time engaging with a nonprofit or other advocacy organization in this kind of way. So, because of that, a lot of them will feel unsure about where they fit in this space. A lot of the creators that I reached out to, Brianna included, and she will talk about her experience. A lot of the creators I reached out to said, I didn't think that I could be part of politics. I didn't think there was a place for me. You know, a lot of them still view politics and advocacy as being a place for certain types of people who look and dress a certain way. So if you learn and try to understand how content creator culture works and you engage with your creators in ways that they're used to when they do typical influencer engagements with other lifestyle events or lifestyle brands, it will help you build trust. So the 2 photos that you see here, the top one, if you recognize 2 of the people in the photos, we had an event last year with Cal Penn and John Cho, and we decided to do brunch with Asian American foodie creators in Las Vegas with Cal Penn and John Cho because we all know they're known for Harold and Kumar going to White Castle, so we had to eat with them. And all of these creators that you see in the photo with them are creators that had not been engaged with the campaign before and don't talk about politics and or are afraid to talk about politics because of their livelihoods. And, we emphasized them sharing to their followers to get out the vote. And it made a lot of them feel very welcomed and comfortable because they said that they would not have gone to other types of events otherwise. And then the bottom event is an event that we hosted. Brianna is in that photo as well. It's an event that we hosted for the presidential debate last year between President Donald Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. This is at a karaoke bar. Again, we wanted to bring in a lot of people to a watch party because most of these creators were not going to go to a regular watch party at a field office or in a stranger's home. So I decided, okay, let's turn it into not a party, but let's make it a little bit fun. So we had merch, we had food. A couple of them were taking shots for every time Donald Trump lied. So we decided to really again, engage the creators in ways that they were comfortable. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that?
It was fun. Look.
And then part of meeting creators where they're at also means providing a lot of opportunities for them to create content. That includes photo ops. As you see here, this is a photo from one of the rallies that we hosted last year, and the creators, including Brianna, are holding up merch. Or you see in the next photo with myself, there's a backdrop. You want to have a lot of places for creators to feel comfortable with capturing content. And then part of meeting creators where they're at is also dressing up. Again, a lot of these people still view politics as being for people who are wearing suits and looking a certain way and carrying themselves a certain way. And I'm not saying you need to dress like you're on a runway, but when you're dressing for your creators, when you're having, especially if you're having in-person events with creators, you want to match their energy. So a lot of the creators that I ended up engaging with tended to be overwhelmingly women and or gay men. And so I dressed to match that. And so this photo of myself is just a picture of one of the outfits. And in contrast, a lot of my colleagues on the campaign would wear campaign shirts and like jeans and a t-shirt and no makeup, which is understandable for what they were doing. But if you are going to engage with content creators, there are some that will judge you based on how you're dressed, because that's the nature of content creation. And you also want them to feel comfortable and make sure that they don't feel out of place.
I want to add on to that, just being, I guess, in the space of the content creator and what we're looking for when we're getting invited to these particular events, especially when it is political. As influencers, our job 9 times or 10 times out of the 10, when we're doing content for maybe an event or we're doing content for a brand or something, we're helping you sell the point of whatever it is that you want us to. We're doing it creatively, where we're doing points, but you have to kind of meet us where we're at. We need stuff that is going to stick out in videos, in pictures. You have so many, everyone is a content creator if we're going off of this era that we're in with social media. Everyone can be an influencer. It's not just certain type of people, it's everyday people. You have micro influencers. So when we're going into these events, we need things that are going to pop out, that we can be like, hey, at this campaign, it wasn't just like stuffy and boring. It's gonna get our audience excited, like, oh my gosh, I would want to go to that. I didn't know that politics was this fun, and nobody did. I would say that this campaign in particular, it kind of, you can't go back. Like, you can't go back to the old ways of doing it. And what I particularly liked about this campaign, and so grateful to be a content creator, was that there was so many opportunities and so many events where I felt included. And it was just the little things, like the photo ops, the hotties for Harris-Walz. It was things that we could do for fun, like things that we would do if we were out with our friends. We could, subtle ways of promoting a campaign. When it was dressing up, me and Chriselle actually had a conversation where I was talking about the first time I actually went to a political event, which was when Biden was still running, and our Vice President Kamala, she was actually speaking at a high school, and I remember going in blue, thinking like, okay, what is my outfit? I need to, look cute and look the part. But then when I got there, I didn't feel like I fit in, because I was wearing this like vibrant blue and like decorative like sweater, and everyone was kind of like very bland, very like on I guess on brand with the campaign. And I kind of felt like maybe I wasn't dressed appropriate. But then when I started with Chriselle and doing her events, I never really noticed, and I didn't pick up that she was actually like meeting us where we were at. And I was so comfortable with her, and she just seemed like one of us. And I almost sometimes forgot she wasn't content creating, because she felt like us. So that was my point. But with the content ideas, like the PR boxes, if you see one of the pictures with the Harris-Walz with the pink glasses, it was actually an event where it was America Ferrera. Yeah. And I was thinking about the Barbie theme and stuff like that, and how, Barbie was very engaged and stuff. So I kind of fit the the event, and I kind of made it personalized, and it was fun, and people actually saw this and was like, oh, that's so cute, and they were very engaged with it. So you just have to keep in mind that when you're inviting us to things, it needs to not only engage us so that we're excited to share it, but our audience needs to be engaged and excited to look at it.
And then this top photo that you see here with the coconut water and the cookies, these were the PR boxes that we sent out prior to the presidential debate. We didn't have any merch at the time, but I had also mentioned to our team, both in the national HQ in Delaware and here in Nevada, that, hey, we can't just do merch. That's a cop-out. A lot of brands, when they send out these boxes to creators, they tell a story. It's not just, here's our product. It's, if it's a makeup brand with a summer line, they give out visors. They give out sunscreen and mini towels along with the makeup itself, because you want people to feel immersed. And so we did that. Since it was promoting the watch parties, we had popcorn, we had posters, we had coconut water, since there was the whole meme with Kamala Harris and the coconut tree. We wanted to have a subtle nod to that. And it's also a great way to get folks to talk about it. We also did what you can't see. We also had a little pamphlet that had some talking points if people wanted to talk about it, but we also made it visually appealing. So if the creators just wanted to show it to the camera, they could do that.
Okay, I'm back. And I want to kind of just dive in a little bit more about my perspective as a non-political influencer, being a part of a political campaign. So first, I want to start off like how I was feeling before. And I'm kind of going off a little bit of script, but stay with me because it's all going to make sense. But before I again am a fashion lifestyle event, my audience knows me as what clothes, what outfit of the day, what cute little cafe I'm going to, what event am I going to. They don't know me for talking about women's rights or civil issues, or so but I was always interested. I always made little comments, never content that was solely based on it. But I always knew I wanted to get in that lane. I just didn't know how I could fit in such lane, because when you think of politics, you think of it as just being so serious and super smart, and it's all these intellectuals, and I'm talking about fashion. Like what shirt matches the pants. So I kind of felt really daunted. I felt limited. I didn't know where my lane was. But I knew that I wanted to be engaged. I knew I wanted to be a part of what was going on. I knew that my platform, what I didn't want it to just be about superficial things. I wanted to be more meaningful. So I began going to some of the campaign events and volunteering. And then that's where I actually met Chriselle. If you see in the picture where I'm holding up the Kamala sign, I actually was taking the picture, and that's when I think Chriselle actually noticed me, and we ended up having this conversation. And it was kind of like, I always say it was like the universe bringing us together, because I literally went to that event because I was like, I'm going to see if somebody could use some content, or I just want to do content for them, or what I can do to use my platform in a positive way. So that's kind of also why I said yes. I wanted to show my audience that yeah, cool kids, I guess, in that aspect, you can also be informed and be a part of your community, and your voice does matter. And sometimes hearing it from politics or politicians, excuse me, it doesn't resonate. Like, they're supposed to tell you to vote. They're supposed to say that your voices matter. But when you're hearing it from someone that you're potentially influenced by, or see as like whatever they see you as, someone that they go to for insight, it kind of shifts the whole mentality. Like, okay, well, she's saying that her voice matter and she's doing all of this, maybe I do too. So why I felt encouraged to continue even after the campaign. I just felt like the engagement that I got from my audience, both pros and cons about that, I felt like it helped. I felt like people were more engaged. People were a little bit more aware. There was certain conversations that in my particular community needed to have. They needed answers. As us doing the campaign, I was able to actually do a interview with Maxwell Frost, and I was able to ask those questions for the Black community, and I was able to ask, how can we get Gen Z to be more engaged? I have a brother that's 13 years younger than me, and he's a part of the Gen Z. He's not very excited about politics. And so, these were the things that made me really encouraged to do it and to still do it afterwards.
And speaking of like influence, I just want to point out, because I know it's probably really hard to see, but this photo or screenshot here is one that I took from one of Brianna's stories, and it's of one of her followers saying, I wasn't going to vote, but you've influenced me to. So, there was a real impact, despite the losses last year, there was still a material, tangible impact on the work that these creators were doing. I have a ton of these screenshots in my phone, so it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, but of course, no matter how good, positive, wonderful, your campaign is in working with content creators, there are going to be challenges. So we do want to address that and talk a little bit about them so that you can manage expectations and plan accordingly. And I divided the challenges that I dealt with into two major buckets, being leadership buy-in and engagement limitations. So within leadership buy-in, this is including mostly like the leadership here in the state of Nevada on the campaign, but also in the Delaware headquarters. So as you see at the top, I encountered a lot of elitism and stereotypes about non-political creators from my colleagues that I was working with. I had colleagues say, Chriselle, honestly, I don't think creators contribute that much to society, I had folks, just make assumptions about creators, or I also had some colleagues think that they were better than the creators that I was working with because they felt that what they were doing was more meaningful than them talking about just fashion or food or whatever, even though, we were engaging them to be part of the campaign in this way. So that was an uphill battle in trying to challenge the pre-existing notions that people in leadership and other colleagues of mine had about content creators. Even going back to the elitism and the buy-in. As you saw in some of the other photos, we had Hotties for Harris merch it was not officially associated with the campaign, but they did send it to all of the battleground states to give out to content creators. Before Megan Thee Stallion came out in Atlanta with Vice President Kamala Harris and talked about Hotties for Harris, it was a discussion we were having here in Nevada. And I brought it up in 3 separate meetings, both with the Nevada state leadership and with the Delaware HQ. This is an example of what not to do. I brought up, they asked for what your needs are. What are your needs to help execute your job? And I said, well, Hotties for Harris. And I said, the reason why is because the unfortunate reality is that a lot of Americans that don't care about politics, they want to look at something cute, hot, they want to feel cool. And a real question that I got in multiple of these meetings was, what if someone's not hot? And that they completely missed the point of the campaign. And so there was a lot of education and hand-holding as to how creator culture is and social media culture is outside of the political world. And I also say that to say, please don't be those people if you are working on a campaign with creators like that.
Can I also add before you get to the next point, on a content creator side with this challenge, You have to see content create. I feel like with this campaign, hopefully it was able to shift the mindset of these political figures and leaders and whoever that was working these campaigns to shift their mindset on what they think content creators provide and what we are. A lot of people always say, "Oh, we're so vain, and we don't have substance and stuff like that." But we do it in a way that is relatable and that people can get the information quick and be engaged with it, and we're trying to stick out. And so I was kind of having this moment of like listening to these challenges on her end, and I was kind of saying, like, you have to think of content creators as your translator. Politics, y'all are kind of like speaking a different language to a lot of people. Like, people have not been in social studies classes or government classes in years, decades sometimes. So they forget, that that's not our job to know what certain things are every day. So, and we're not getting reminded how the government works, or, why we're voting for this person or whatever. So your content creators, you kind of have to use them as a liaison to get your points across, because when you guys are saying it, we don't resonate. It doesn't resonate. You're not talking in layman's terms. You're not simplifying it. You're not getting to the point. It drags on. Whereas content creators, we understand what the big picture is, but let me sum it down. Let me like dumb it down to where my audience is going to get it. They can take away, and they could probably, spread it on to other people that think the same way.
Thanks, Brianna.
Mm-hmm.
Some other issues that I dealt with related to leadership buy-in led to leadership questioning the lack of talking points in creator content. This was Brianna already kind of touched on this, on how you have to view content creators as translators. A lot of, leadership in the beginning of my work on the campaign would question, Chriselle, what is it that you're really doing? Is there really even any impact in what you're doing? Why aren't these creators using our talking points in their videos? And again, both in the political world and even in the creator world, a lot of people still think of political content as only being one type, which is like a CNN newscaster type talking head content, when in reality, there are so many ways that you can showcase talking about social issues or politics or anything in that realm. But you have to be a little bit creative. And so you have to also be prepared to share ideas, not only with creators, which we'll talk a little bit more about later, but also with your leadership, to share your vision on how these creators are going to disseminate whatever your message is to their audience, but you have to give them the freedom to do it in a way that works best for them, as Brianna said. Another thing is that I had trouble with in getting buy-in from leadership was hosting certain events that are familiar to content creators but unfamiliar to advocacy organizations. The event that I mentioned a few slides ago, where you saw us in a karaoke bar, that took a little bit of selling to get the approval to host that event, and having a karaoke bar as a venue, because there were some colleagues of mine were like, why would you do that there? Back to the elitism and stereotypes, people, thought that people questioned if I was like actually working because I was doing these events that did not seem like typical political events, but in reality, I was building relationships and talking to these creators and helping them understand what was happening in a setting that they were comfortable with. And then besides leadership buy-in, there are, of course, the actual engagement limitations, logistical limitations that come with events. Obviously, money is going to be a big one. Because I worked on a national campaign, that wasn't as much of an issue for me, but I'm sure, as you all are aware, money to either pay creators to do certain things, which, by the way, about 98% of the engagements we did with the creators, we did not pay them. They came on their own accord because they genuinely believed in not only the mission, but also the relationships that I had built with them. But hosting events or doing PR boxes, doing things like that to engage content creators can be pricey. So that's something to keep in mind. Another engagement or logistical limitation are quote unquote acceptable events that may engage creators but are conflicting for organizations. Um, a- an event idea that we had discussed last year when I was getting feedback from Brianna that we did not go through with for as reasons as I will talk about in a bit, was we were like, well, we're in Las Vegas. How do you want to engage people in Las Vegas? Let's do something that is very unique to our city. And that was having an event at a club. Obviously, that was not going to be appropriate. So, but it ended up being a good jumping off point for certain ideas and events like the event at the karaoke bar. So that's something that you need to keep in mind as well. And then another engagement limitation that I encountered was that there were some creators that I engaged with that wanted to be part of the campaign, but couldn't engage with us because of existing contracts that they had with certain brands. You have to remember that even though for most of the creators that you're engaging with, this might not be their full-time job, but for a lot of them, it either is or it does make up a significant portion of their income. There was a creator that came to an event that we hosted last year where she got to take a photo with Kamala Harris. She got to take a selfie. She posted it on her Instagram. And after she posted it, one of her clients, Walmart, they came back to her and amended their contract and said that you cannot talk about politics until the end of the campaign. And I also mentioned this to say that this is where allowing creators to be more subtle with their messaging, like the trad wives, a la trad wives or gym bros, allowing creators to be more subtle with their messaging will open up the doors for more collaborations with creators, even if they have certain limitations, like that one creator that I talked about.
Oh, sorry. So the challenges for creators that we encounter is merging political and regular content. Staying in one's lane, especially when people are used to doing certain types of content, seeing you in a certain light. So if you begin talking about something serious, they question how serious you are talking about it. Sorry, I couldn't even get the word out. I want to really emphasize on this because I'm not only a content creator, I'm a business owner, and this was one of my challenges. I'm not going to say the biggest, but it was one of my challenges that I had when trying to make sense of how I can be a non-political content creator saying and doing political content. I had actually took some polls on my Instagram stories just to kind of gauge where my followers and my audience were at. I asked them if I should even do politics. I say little things. I think as a whole, if you know me and you've been on my page, we have a certain there's a certain understanding of who I am and what I'm for and what I'm about. So it wasn't really a cross when I was endorsing or wanted to be a part of Biden and Harris or Harris and Walz campaign. But I actually got a lot of comments saying like, no, I think you should just stay on this. Like, tell us, I like you better if you just look cute and go to a cafe. Let me know what cafe I should go to. Or when we come to Vegas, I would just rather prefer you talk about what is there to do. And these were actually kind of like verbatim of what I was experiencing. And so when you are approaching non-political content creators, you just want to keep in mind that their audience is used to us in a certain light. They follow us for a certain reason, whatever it is. And 9 times out of 10, asking us to like just be bold and come out and start talking about the women's right to choose, or sensitive kitchen table issues when they're used to me talking about what is in my closet, is really hard. And it's really hard to keep them engaged, even if they're looking but not saying anything or wanting to continue to follow those content creators. So the next point is political folks not seeing the value of or understanding lifestyle creators. Example, traditional press outlets being frustrated with creators at political events, even though at typical lifestyle events, creators are usually considered media or press. This is also something that I thought it was quite funny, but it was it's actually something that during this campaign I really kind of experienced that I don't when I'm going to these other events. Content creators are used to being treated as if we are like we're there for a job, we're there to get the content, get the information so that we can tell our audience. So when we're in these spaces, we don't think any differently. So one particular time was the last speech that Kamala Harris did in DC. It was a couple of the creators from different states that had went, and we were in the line next to the actual media and press, and they were livid that we were there. We've heard the comments and stuff that we weren't as important as them. Like they feel like they're the mainstream and stuff. And it's kind of like they even have to change their mindset because we are mainstream as well too. Social media is where a bulk of people get their political news from. So we're not saying that the media is not as important, but we also hold space in that part too. So with that being said, there's some mindset shift that would definitely need to be approached during next elections. And then last is the audience backlash and losing followers. During my time during the campaign, I actually lost over maybe about 6,000 to 7,000 followers on my brand, on my personal page. But because they knew that I am so linked to my business page, I had to actually had to just keep going because I knew that this was so much important, but that was one of the challenges.
We understand that we're coming close on time, but just a quick break before we keep moving forward. In the chat, please share one way that you or your organization can engage lifestyle creators. We've been sharing different ideas, different ways that you can engage content creators, non-political creators, but we would also love to see what is running through your head as you're thinking about potential influencer campaigns for your organizations. But since we are coming up on time, we will keep moving right along, but please feel free to share in the comments. So what is the long-term impact of this campaign? Brianna, do you want to quickly go through this?
Yeah. So real quick, all the content creator girls and guys that we were during the campaign, we're still friends. Like we still check up on each other. We still support each other. We're invested in each other's lives. We don't only talk about politics. We go out, we meet each other every so often. We've kind of established a friendship beyond the campaigns. And, you know, we still check in and it's awesome. The group that we have, it was very organic and natural, and the experience was really positive for all of us. I don't think not one person ever was like, oh my god, I can't wait until this campaign was over. We actually enjoyed it. We wish we could have did more or had some more opportunities to continue to spread the word and stuff, but many of us are still doing politics even after the election.
And then another long-term impact is that as a result of this program that we ran, a couple of the creators in our group are even considering running for office. The two screenshots you see are from two different creators. A couple of the creators have said that because of the way that they were engaged with the campaign, because I don't want to just say me, myself, but because I was able to show them what's possible, that they do have a space in here. A couple of our friends are now considering running for politics as a result. And of course, we will be right there to support them and making content for them and disseminating their message to our audiences when that comes.
So some of the main takeaways is just understanding the general creator landscape and or industry norms for our influencers in the niche that you want to reach. Don't just think that because they're a content creator, they're going to be the right fit for a campaign, that they have the right audience, or that it's going to reach people that you need it to reach, because you really have to take the time to research what creators and to understand our lingo and to understand what's going on with creators and why they do different types of uh, content for their audience.
And of course, you want to manage expectations for organizational leadership. You need to be prepared to over-explain yourself because a lot of folks are still unfamiliar with this world of content creation in general, but even more so lifestyle creators. So you have to be able to over-explain yourself and have examples ready. And then number 3 is providing subtle content ideas to help creators visualize how they can collaborate, but keep their content organic. I do have linked a content idea library resource that I've created. I can share that out with you all after this is over. But going back to the beginning where I talked about outreach, whenever I reached out to creators via email, I did also mention, hey, I know you talk about food and you don't normally talk about politics. Well, you can do this at our event. We're highlighting local businesses at our event, so you can highlight that if you would like. Things like that. You need to provide some ideas to help the creators visualize so that they can see, oh yeah, there's some possibilities for us here.
And lastly, just making your creators feel welcome, like their work has value, because it does. Like, don't make us think, because we already know what value it does, but you guys have to understand why creators value is what it is and how it can help it if you use it as an asset to any campaign. And just coming to where we're at, it would make the experience and the content better. Yeah.
And that's all we have. I know we have only a few minutes left, so we're going to see if we have any questions. Okay, nice. We have some people from all around the country here. That's great. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to share them in the chat. But if not, that's totally fine. We do have these slides. We will make sure that you have access to them, as well as the link to the content idea resource library, because we do think that engaging with content creators from all niches, not just political and educational, is important. I'm just thinking of ways to push the importance of civic education and action, empowerment, and being changed. That is great, Rachel. I know that's not really a question, but I think the best way to push the importance of civic education and action, besides engaging with creators like Brianna, or whatever niches you're trying to reach, also walking people through how things work in terms of content. Something that I do on my personal content, because I don't consider myself a lifestyle creator anymore. I focus on history and politics. I've done videos where I showed how to mail in a ballot. I've shown videos how to call your representatives, and I recorded myself calling the representatives, and what I say, stuttering and all. And I've gotten feedback that it's made people feel more comfortable because I'm not doing it all perfectly. You want to walk people through that. So besides having creators like Brianna be able to distill civic education and action in a way that feels relatable and fun, you also want to work with creators who can break it down and make content that walks people through, because that's what a lot of people are looking for, I think, as far as civic engagement goes. People don't know how to find their representatives, so you film a video where you're Googling it and you're screen sharing that. People don't know, how to do certain things, so kind of walking people through that's what people want to see.
Can I add on to that? And this isn't, I don't have any particular type of ways that you can push, but it just really stems from asking, like as simple as just asking the audience that you want um to talk about these things, and then seeing where they're at. Because if you don't know where they're at, then how are you going to push it in a way that it resonates with them? So I guess that's just coming from someone that does content creation and has a business. Like, for example, if I use my business and my fashion, how do I make these collections that's going to resonate with the modern woman? If I don't ask them, what it is, and I'm just putting it out, if I'm just putting out clothes or whatever, then whoever likes it's gonna like it. But I'm missing this whole opportunity of people who want to buy the clothes, but they don't, it's not really resonating with them. So I feel like just keeping it simple is just that. How can I know that this is important, but how do I reach you, that audience, in a way that is going to resonate and you're going to want to seek the information? And also, you really do, I want to piggyback off of what Chriselle said. You really do have to piggyback, uh, or you really have to like handhold people with information. Like, things that you would think like, oh, just click on a link. Like, no, you have to like literally click that link for them and let them see what it is. If you want to show them, you can't just tell people like, this is why it's important. Click that link. No, let me show you why I clicked this link and then I did this. That you're going to have to handhold that audience so that they know that it's important.
John has shared, is it worth trying to break into niches that are more conservative, like gym bros or fitness, or do you stick to progressive niches? This is a really great question, and it was something that I encountered while on the campaign last year. We had an instance of a creator who, he's a sneakerhead, which if you're not familiar with what a sneakerhead is, it's just a guy who really loves shoes. And he has millions of followers, like just because he talks about shoes. And he's actually the only creator that we had. Before he came to an event that we did with Kamala Harris, where we gave him the chance to be in the very front of the audience so that he could like shake her hand and stuff like that. He also had a photo op with Donald Trump because of his shoes. And we decided that there was still a value in bringing this particular guy to this event despite that, because we felt like, well, he's the kind of person that if Kamala Harris came out with a special edition shoe, he would buy that too, or he would go out for that too. And it ended up being a really interesting experience. I mean, the comments he got were not great because he did have a large conservative following or more moderate following, but it was still a good learning experience. Now, in terms of trying to break into niches that are more conservative, I would say that this goes back to what we're saying as meeting creators where they're at. You would have to reach out to them first and see if they're even interested. There was a creator that I reached out to who is a lifestyle creator, but her husband is a gym bro. And we thought, based on like the content that we had seen of theirs, we thought that, okay, they don't talk about their politics at all, but we think they might be like in the middle, but maybe lean, Democrat. We reached out and the woman was disgusted. She said, ew, please do not reach out to me again. So, I don't think it hurts to reach out in niches that are more conservative, but you do need to, one, provide content ideas for them to showcase their content in a more subtle way. But and you have to just be very strategic in how you want to use these people. Obviously, in every niche, even ones that are more conservative, there are people that are more progressive. But you just have to tread lightly.
Can I add on to that, John? Just my opinion, just on my level, like what I notice is that people are very like one issue, like voters, and you can find that conservative that might agree with some liberal, ideas or something and use them in that such. And I don't think like I think like they were trying to get both sides together, especially like when what's her name? McCain. I can't think of her name right now.
Megan McCain?
No. I can't think of her name right now. But when she came and it was a Republican, Liz Cheney. There you go.
Oh,
Liz Cheney. When she came and kind of welcoming conservatives onto our side, it was kind of breaking in that door. I think we could all look at that and being like, there are some people that might agree with this and might want to talk about that, and you could utilize them. And so you're not really excluding anyone out. Like, that's the thing. Like, everyone wants to be a part of something, especially, and even content creators. That's why we do these type of, well, I only do fashion and I do lifestyle, but now we're seeing a trend where we're having content creators that doesn't have a particular niche. They're just doing everything. So I would say, with that trend going and starting to become relevant, you're not only seeing fashion and lifestyle creators talk about fashion, you see us going to events and talking about food too. So,
and before I go on to Eric's question, I do want to have one more point for your question, John. Obviously, all of the niches do have conservative creators. There are creators that think, no, you should only stick to your lane. And as far as like, even like, we'll just use gym bro and fitness as the example, since that's what you mentioned. There are more creators that are coming out because of the climate of our country right now, that are coming out to say, no, fitness is political and this is why. And they're male creators. So that is, you can find those creators in those niches. And again, when you do find those creators in those more conservative niches, or more stereotypically conservative niches, you can work with them. I would say work with them. There were many times that I worked with Brianna. With her and other creators, I would meet with them one-on-one and say, hey, how can I help you with your content? How can I, help you integrate your values into your content in a way that is not going to be so in your face? So that's what I'll say to that. And then Eric, do you think creators will be interested in nerdier or more niche campaigns? Yes. And I will say, if you do want to do more nerdier or niche campaigns, there are creators that are known for that. Gamers, cosplayers, Twitch streamers, YouTube streamers. Those creators tend to be more nerdy and into the niche campaigns. Although that doesn't mean that you can't find a fashion influencer or a foodie influencer who wouldn't be interested in that. There's one creator that I follow. This has nothing to do with politics, but there's one creator I follow who's a chef, and he is known for recreating food from anime. So, you can combine the two. There are fashion creators that like to have showcase outfits based on like video games or
eras, historical eras.
Yeah. So you can find creators who are into that, or even creators who might be in a more mainstream niche. Again, it goes back to what we were saying of like the hand-holding of, you need to provide ideas on how they could utilize their content in a way that gets the message out for whatever your issue is that you're trying to advocate for, and bringing together their interests. Yeah. And I do say that as someone who, I myself as a creator, would also be interested in nerdier and more niche campaigns. But yeah, I hope that answers your question. Thank you so much to everyone who's here and who's stayed through all the way. I know we are a little bit over time, but really, we're just really passionate about making sure that as a collective, we're no longer just preaching to the choir. That's really what it boils down to as to why we're talking about this, why we want to reach, why we want to collaborate with non-political creators and therefore their audiences, is that I know oftentimes in the organizing, especially in progressive organizing spaces, we tend to preach to the choir. And we need to, I think a lot of folks, and I experienced this last year myself, is that a lot of folks who work in organizing and politics and advocacy, I think really underestimate how little people know or care about these issues on a day-to-day basis. And so we really want to bridge the gap so that we can have people see that this is for all of us and we can all do this together. But yeah, thank you so much,
Thank you,
everyone.
John.
Thank you.
Thank you.